Welcome to the Meeple Syrup Show. I believe we're on episode 113, and I think the final verdict is this is season 5. And I'm excited to say that
I really do think it's. I really do, because we do about 30 shows a year.
All right, so we'll say 4.
4.5.
4.3. But we're here, and I have to obviously give a shout out to our regular hosts. So we have Erica Boris, and we also have Sen Fung Lim. And Sen, I feel a little bad that we don't have Dylan anymore. But
where'd he go?
Maybe someday he'll come back.
Yeah, I think we had to replace Dylan because he was getting a little uppity, and so we got Erica to come on the show instead.
Sen is being strangled as we see.
That was a nice setup. We even set up our guests. So the whole time Dylan was hiding while our guests even got here. So we're really excited about that.
That's amazing.
Dylan is visiting us from France and has been making the rounds, visiting all the different game artisans in the Ontario region right now. But beyond that, what have you been up to, Sen?
Not a lot. I've been putting together this season, so that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about whatever else, games, blah blah blah. Except Cora, go support my Kickstarter. That's about it.
Is that number 2?
No, but that is the only thing I've got going on right now. So today's show is actually going to be the title is Juggling Jobs: The Many Hats We Wear, and we have 2 guests with us today, Sarah Sharp and Helaina Cappel, who are like wearing so many hats. Their heads are like covered in hats, just covered in hats. And
way more hats than me.
Yeah, way more hats than Daryl. And we're gonna that man has a lot of hats. And we're gonna talk about how they managed to juggle all of that plus real life and still manage to, survive and stay, intact and make great games while they're doing it. Yeah, get some sleep. Then we're going to talk on, this is a funny one, episode 114. Next week's will be called Escape Roomies, How to Incorporate Puzzles into Games. And it's funny because I called it Escape Roomies because it's Jay, myself, and Errol. We were roommates in university. That's how we know each other. And Errol is a very big name in the escape room industry in the Toronto area. He does the Escape Room Divas, and he's one of the people who helps put on those giant escape events, like the one in the train and the one at Casa Loma. He's the one that helped design all of those. And so we're going to talk about how to incorporate puzzles into games that week. After that, we're going to go sight unseen. Yeah, Daryl and Erica don't even know this stuff yet. So it's kind of fun.
It's all new to me.
Yeah, right? Sight unseen. This is designing for neurodiversity and invisible diagnoses. So Richard Gibbs, John Dubois, Sarah Reed, and Will Reed will come on. And we're talking about low vision, brain injury, all that kind of stuff. All the stuff that we don't really think about because we don't see it. We don't see it happening. And we don't see the actual effects of it until it's way too late to make changes. And so we're going to talk to them about that. Next week after that is A Struggle is Real, Starting Something from Nothing. We have Gerald King from Ohio, Pam Wallace from Toronto, talking about how to start conventions from absolutely scratch. And Gerald King has this thing going on, which is the Ultimate Team Up, UTU, in Columbus, Ohio area, where he pairs up designers and artists and entrepreneurs together to create works of art that are games, things like that. So I don't know what it's about, but I'm super interested. Then we have Helping Hands, giving back to your gaming community. Avanel Wing from the New Jersey area with Metatopia, Double Exposure. She's awesome. And Kate Bullock from Toronto area, Breakout Con, Toronto area gamers, etc., etc. They're going to come and they're going to talk to us about how we as gamers can give back to the gaming community. And I think that's a really important thing, given the climate we have going on right now. Not the heat we're talking about, Erica, but just in gaming in general, as we talked about on that little thing I did the other day, which was the Talk a Good Game thing. Then we're going to look at The Cards Were Dealt, Overcoming Issues Through Occupation. Michael Epstein and Bez Shaharari are coming on to talk about how game designing has helped them overcome obstacles in their life, including diagnoses like depression, job loss, all those types of things, and how positive game design has been for them. Can't believe I wrote this. November 8th, this one is going to be fun. And if you follow him on Facebook, you'll know that Matt Fantastic is utterly hilarious. But it's not just Matt. Naomi Clark will be here as well. And if you saw the Kickstarter for some Consenticles, you'll know what we're talking about. So this is going to be titled Shameless Plug, Designing Sex-Positive Games. So I think that'll be a really interesting one. As we move forward in gaming and as we're pushing the boundaries, you know, Karma Sutra did really well. Why can't there be more sex-positive games out there? November 15 will be I can't say this. Pre-PAX prep with Pro Power Pair. How to design with your significant other. Nicole Klein and Anthony Amato will be on from Laser Riders and other games. And it's oddly enough, we have 2 people here today as well that could be on that show as well. And the last couple ones in November, we have More Than Meets the Eye, game-specific graphic design and illustration. Adrian Azel and hopefully Beth Sobel or Kwanchai Moria will be with us. And November 29th is Stay on Target, Market Penetration. Marguerite Crotrell, who's with PSI. Jamie Boucher, who's with GameWire. We on the show to talk about how do we get our games placed in stores like Walmart and Target and all that kind of stuff. And then we have a couple of the guests that we have on, but we don't know what we're talking about yet, like Anna Creator from the Waterloo area. RPG publishing might be what we're going to talk about. We've never talked about RPGs on the show a lot, so they're part of the tabletop family. Let's do that thing. Anyways, that's from me, so the rest of you can talk for the rest of the show. I talked a lot.
Consent is done. Word count complete.
All right. Daryl, go ahead, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's just jump right into the show, and then if people want, we can interact with. Also, I just want to give a shout out for the live chat. So if people have burning questions that you would like to add to the show, we encourage you to join in live on YouTube. We already have a few viewers there already, and some regulars and some new people. So we just want to say welcome, and we really appreciate you here. And then also a plug to feel free to download the episodes on iTunes, where you can listen at your leisure, or binge watch or binge listen the episodes that you're curious about. We really appreciate your feedback. I know Sen was gathering lots of people's different feedback and ideas for those episodes, so we really appreciate people reaching out and offering, and we got a really great season ahead. But jumping right into it, I'm going to actually put the spotlight on Helaina first and just give us a little bit of a Cole's Notes version of all the maybe not all, some of the major hats that you juggle just when it comes to your time. Some that,
that was a totally mixed metaphor.
Well, yeah. That was Cole's Notes, but
yeah.
Or Cliff's Notes if you're American.
Cliff Notes, something, I don't know. But just,
no, it's more the hats that you juggle. How do you juggle hats, really, Daryl?
I juggle hats all the time.
Can you juggle? Can you actually juggle hats?
Yeah, because they have hard bills.
Okay.
I'm sure somebody juggles hats.
Yeah,
I'm sure somebody juggles hats.
All right.
On
anyway.
that note, Helaina.
Okay, so I am a mom first and foremost, and I am also married to my co-designer, Josh Cappel. And I am a teacher by day. I teach grade 3 this year, but I have been teaching grade 7 and 8 math and science for the past several years. And that's my day job. And then I come home and I'm with my kids for a little while, and then I turn into a game designer and a publisher. And so I'm sure I can give you a little bit more about what I do, but we're doing Cole's Notes for now. So whatever else will come up, will come up.
Well, let's send it over to Sarah then. We have Sarah Sharp, who could tell her a little bit about herself if she's ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I also am a mother of teenagers, which gets crazy. And I am soon to be married to a game designer, Levi Moat. We're getting married in 3 weeks, so that's pretty exciting.
Hey,
Congratulations.
Yay, that's awesome.
It's been 9 years coming, so it's
wow.
we're very excited.
Okay, so maybe it's not so awesome.
No, it's great. It's great.
It's okay.
Yeah. I'm a nurse by day. That's my day job. I co-own Daily Magic Games that makes the Valeria line. That's us. And then I also recently just started a new company of my own called Creators Companion. So I'm a freelance editor, and I focus on I have a specialty in tabletop games, so editing rule books and RPGs and things like that. And then Levi is now part of that company too, doing game development. So we've kind of got a lot going on all the time.
That's great. Helaina, tell us about what is it that drives you to do all this stuff?
I don't know. I guess I can't sit still. I've always been pretty driven, and as a teacher, there's always lots of stuff going on, but I've been in it for 16 years now. And at 16 years, obviously I'm still learning, or at least I know that I'm still learning a lot of stuff about teaching, but I kind of feel like I need more in my life. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so the fact that I was a gamer and creative and driven to own a business, it all sort of intermingled and married each other, and it feels right. And that drive that I have feels like it's going in the right direction with that. So that drive perpetuates more drive for me. So.
Absolutely. Well, talking about some of the different games that were connected, and obviously one of the main things that a lot of our viewers are connected to is some form of game creation. Can we hear a little bit about some of the recent stuff you've been working on, Sarah? I know Horizons just finished on Kickstarter, but what are some of the upcoming projects? And also catch us up on games like Horizon. When will those be available? Stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. So we were very excited. Horizons just had a really good showing on Kickstarter. We funded way more than we thought we were going to do, so that's exciting. And everybody really got behind it. We got a lot of great feedback at PAX recently, and Rose City Comic-Con and a bunch of other conventions we've been to, and everybody's really excited about it. I know Levi's worked really, really hard on it, and since he is my spouse, I mean, that game has been our lives for like 3 years now. So we're really excited to see it kind of take off. So Horizons is good. It'll be out. It should be out for print in July of next year. So early copies will get, their copies then, and then it'll go to retail, which is exciting. The next game we have coming up for Daily Magic that's going to Kickstarter in December is Singularity. No, it's not named after me, I promise. Came to us that way. It's a great time travel card game that kind of doesn't take itself too seriously, and it handles time travel really well. Everybody's playing a different version of Sarah and trying to fix the messes that Sarah Prime is making as she runs throughout time and puts people where they don't belong. And it's great, and it's fast, and the art is beautiful. So we're really excited about that one. I've been working on a lot of rulebook editing lately. I've been working a lot with Thing 12 games, working on Dice of Crowns, and next up is coming Dice of Pirates. And then I worked with the Talon Strike guys on King's Champion, which is this really cool, like, 2-person heads-up jousting game, which sounds crazy, especially since it's worker placement and like card management manipulation and resource manipulation. It's really awesome. They had a really successful Kickstarter, so they're getting ready to go to print. So we've just been we've got all kinds of things going on right now, and I've been working on rule books for stuff we have going on at DMG that we haven't even announced yet, which I'm pretty excited about. So we've got all kinds of stuff coming up.
All right. I would say Helaina talking about wearing multiple hats at once. You've got not only one, but 2 publishing companies now?
I do.
Okay. And what's coming out under those?
Okay, so kids table board gaming. I've had for a few years, and we've published Problem Picnic: Attack of the Ants by Scott Alms, and Food Fighters, which was our first game, by myself and Josh Cappel. And coming to Kickstarter on October 10th, actually, is Haunt the House. And talk about beautiful art. I have only amazing things to say. We usually have Josh do the art for our games, and he art directed this one. He decided that he needed to have a look that was different than what he usually does, and he was right. We picked a really fantastic artist. It's really a beautiful press your luck bluffing game that can be played probably by kids about 7 or 8 and up. And it has, all of our games have an element of a level playing field between older players and younger players. So there are some catch-up mechanisms in all of our games that work to level that playing field. So that is what company am I talking about right now? That's Kids Table. And then I just started a new brand called Burnt Island Games. And we announced at Gen Con this past summer that we are partnering with Mark Spector at Grand Gamers Guild to reissue Endeavor. And the game will be called, yes, we're so excited about it. The game will be called Endeavor Age of Sail. And it is an amazing game by Carl Dvisser and Jarrett. Why can't I remember his last name? That is terrible. Really, really great game by the two of them. The original art was done by Josh, my husband, which is how I got my hands on the game. And coming to Kickstarter January 10th, we've got a lot of new things coming out for the game, which are being unveiled very slowly. Right now, we just unveiled some exploits. And we're really, really excited to bring that back to the world. People are very, very happy to hear that this is happening.
I definitely am. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Me too.
And you know, yeah, I think it's not my favorite Josh cover, but it's definitely up
Really?
there. No, I for some reason.
Is Belfort your favorite?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a little partial to Belfort, but no, yeah, I gotta think about that one. But I gotta think about. I like a lot of Josh's art, right? So, well, I love a lot of Josh's art. So I got to figure out which one it is. But I wonder if that one. But I do like the new cover. And I love the new art that you showed today. Yeah, the new art you showed today was just brilliant. I loved it.
He's doing such a fantastic job. And, you know, I'll just for 2 seconds say how this all came about. So Josh did the original art for it, and Z-Man originally produced the game, and they just sort of let it go. And we're not really sure why that happened, because this is the game that got me into gaming. This is the game that made me a gamer. And for the last 5 years, I've been saying to Josh, I think I want to be a publisher and I want to reissue Endeavor. It has to be. And I don't know how it happened. Here we are. And I'm just beside myself about it still.
Well, we're happy to see that. Sarah, we have some questions from the audience. Paige West asks, how many rule books do you have to edit before you can really state that you're a rulebook editor? And how does that work? And because he's asking, how do you pick those hats up and put them on your head and say, yeah, I'm a rulebook editor now? How did that happen?
That's actually, that's not the first time I've gotten that question. And I don't know how it is for anybody else, because I know that there are several other editors who are doing rule books professionally. And it came down to the fact that I have worked behind the scenes at Daily Magic for, I mean, since we kind of really got started. And I kind of have my hand in development sometimes, and I have my hand a lot in playtesting sometimes, and I'm a huge gamer. Like, that's what we do. Since Levi and I got together, we really dived into our hobby of gaming together, and it's just kind of a staple of our existence. So I've read a ton of rule books, and every time I read a crappy rule book, I want to throw it against the wall and be like, I want to play your game, but I can't, because you can't put this rule book together. And it was, you know, there was a time before lots of playthrough videos, and there was a time before I could go to a convention, talk to the designer, and be like, tell me how to play your game. You know what I mean? So I know that there are other people out there who are buying games off the shelves, picking them up for the first time, hearing maybe some hype about them or saying, hey, this looks good, and then getting them home and opening the box. And I want for game designers, because I know how hard they work, I would hate for somebody to be like, yeah, I'm going to go take this to Goodwill, or I'm going to turn it back into my store for store credit because I just can't figure out how to play this game because these rules don't make any sense, right? And you really get one pass at a game. I know there's been a couple times where friends of ours have gotten together at our gaming table and we've pulled out the rules to play a game, and all of us are just like, yeah, this game sucks. And I'm like, I don't think the game sucks. We can't figure it out. Anyway, so I'm a creative writer at heart. I've been doing it forever, and I kind of fought with writing for a long time and couldn't get my feet under me to really do it. And then I realized a while back that I love words, and I love storytelling, and I love clarity in those things. And just kind of, I had an epiphany, and I'm like, I have this thing all about gaming, and I have this love of words and making things sound amazing. I should put those two things together. And I just kind of did. And I went to the first people I knew. I talked to my friends who are game designers, and I'm like, can I edit your rule books for you? And they're like, sure. And it's just kind of picked up from there. It started with that, and now I'm actually getting like, you know, legitimate clients who aren't like people who have come over to my house and I've fed them dinner, like the people who don't know me personally. So that's great. But I want, games are so important to so many people, and I know how important they are to us. I want to give every game its shot to like really shine. And sometimes those rule books is just where it breaks down.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I decided to do it, and I did it. I put up a website, and I'm like, here we go, let's do it. And it's kind of rolled with it. It's been a lot of networking and a lot of talking and a lot of handing out my business card and a lot of crossing my fingers and, you know, a lick and a prayer and getting it done. But yeah, I just did it. I just went for it and did it.
Hey, Sarah, have you seen the new app that is up on Indiegogo right now? The Dized. Have you seen that?
Dized? Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
What do you think of it?
I think it's fantastic. I do. I think it's a really smart app. I know it is my direct competition. I mean, as far as editing rule books and things like that. But I think for some people, they're going to still want something in front of them in print. And I don't know if games are ever going to go 100% no rule book. Right?
Absolutely.
And even if that's the case, let's say somebody did decide to do that. Let's say somebody decided to go 100% no paper rule book. They still need to craft and orchestrate the explanation so that something like Dized can then explain it to somebody else. And that's something that's completely written and organized behind the scenes. And that's something that I would be interested in doing too, because either way, it still has to be presented, and somebody has to write it out somehow as to how it's going to be presented, whether it's a rule book or it's scripted. But I think Dized is a great idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, the beauty of Dized as well is it's coming alongside the rule book, right? So as you said, the person who's just opening up that box, they don't necessarily know about support things like videos and dice and things like that. So we're really, I mean, as a designer, I very much appreciate the work that you do, because you make my bad rule books look better. and people will.
His are horrible.
give games a chance. So
yeah. And let me say, rule books are not an easy thing to do. Like, and again, being almost married to a game designer, I find like the number one thing is game designers have it in their head how the game is supposed to go, and they write it out on paper, and what they think is obvious to other people is not obvious to anybody else, right?
That's a really good point, that they forget to state the things that they're thinking about.
Exactly. They forget to state, they'll forget to put in entire rules that like they just should be obvious. Especially when it comes to like the nitty gritty of mechanics, if it's a weightier game, they know how it plays in their head, but translating the know how to play and maybe having explained it to people 10 million times through playtesting doesn't necessarily equate to clarity on paper. And so getting it out of their head and putting it there in a way that makes sense. And I've also talked to a ton of people and said, how do you like your rule books laid out, right? Like, what is the consensus amongst gamers? So a lot of them say, well, very first we want to know when does the game end and how do I win? That's the first thing I want to know. And then I want to know about components, and then I want to know about setup. So I've kind of taken a lot of feedback from people who are just interested in playing games, and how when I know of a bad rule book or a rule book that is just terribly written, I'll give it to several gamer friends of mine and say, look at this and tell me what part of it you don't like. What part of it does this not make sense, to make sure it jives with what I'm seeing in it, so I can watch out for those key elements in other rule books. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense, and it's clearly your skill set, and so I'm, like I said, very thankful you're doing that. I want to transition to Helaina. What do you think are? I mean, it's hard sometimes for us to talk about our strengths, but what are some of the strengths? We're talking about juggling multiple hats. What are some of your skills and maybe even experiences from the past that kind of now looking prepared you to be a publisher? Like, are there different experiences or just the way you're wired that helps you do what you do?
That's a really good question. I guess I've never really thought too much about that. Just sort of gone with the flow, but I have a lineage in my family of business people. My grandfather and my father, and they were always very driven by business success. So I heard about it my whole life, and then I guess that's sort of within me. I think my experience working as a teacher with kids and also with adults has prepared me for the social part of the job that I have as a publisher, and even as a game designer, because I'm at conventions, playtesting with people and demoing to people, and it's really important to be able to listen to them and talk to them, and so I think I got a lot of those skills from teaching, and then also the fact that when I first started playing games with my kids, I really disliked the games that I was playing with them. And so that was, 5 or 6 years ago, when I think there weren't enough games out there for my children to really be playing that I thought that they could be successful at, and so could I. And so I learned a lot about what I wanted my experience to be and what I wanted my kids' experience to be playing games. And doing that, I think, has given me the knowledge and experience that I need in order to create games that families can all play together and everybody is equally entertained. So that's where all of it comes from.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that, equally entertained, Helaina. That's awesome.
Thanks, Sarah.
So I'm going to bring up a question that's actually come up in the chat. I'm going to start with Sarah, but I'm sure, Helaina, we'd love to hear how you do this too, because I can't think anybody does this the same way. Time management has to be a huge issue with both of you, because, think that technically everything you have is probably a priority to you. Like, I'm sure if anyone asks, every single hat you're wearing is a priority. So how do you actually prioritize that?
Oh, I am terrible at it, which is awful. I'm mostly terrible at it because I will freely admit that I am a procrastinator because I this was a hard pill to swallow, but I have learned that I'm a procrastinator because I'm afraid to fail. So I just my natural instinct is just to push things off to make sure that I don't have to deal with it. But I have so much going on that I have no choice but to get it done. And now that work is in this industry that I love, I can focus on it a little better because I love it so much. And deadlines are a real thing that make you have to hustle. And so it's just a matter of, I think it helps a little bit, at least for me. I'm sure Helena's in a very different boat because our kids are very different ages, but I have teenagers. Yeah. So my kids are of the age that we can get together and we can hang out and they can take care of themselves and we can get together when we need to. And we make fun. I don't have to fuss over little children. And it's very helpful, and they're extremely helpful to me around the house. They're very supportive. They love what we do, even though they're not board gamers themselves, which is hilarious to me. But so that's helpful. It's also helpful that Levi and I both work, we're both in the same boat, right? We both work in the same industry, so we play off of each other a lot. So there's a lot of support there and push to encourage each other and get things done. But there's a lot of at some point I'm like, oh dear God, I have to get this done. And I'm silently tearing my hair out while I'm frantically typing away to get in by a deadline or something. That happens frequently. So it's not pretty, but you make it work and you set your priorities and hope for the best.
Mm-hmm. So as a nurse, do you do shift work, or are you pretty regularly scheduled?
I just got done being in a teaching position. I was teaching CNAs, certified nursing assistants, and I was a clinical instructor. But we're actually getting ready to move about an hour and a half south of where we live now, and I'm starting a management position down there. So it's going to be 8 to 5. So it'll be pretty different, but it'll make things kind of nice. And having weekends free is always helpful because there's always a convention somewhere.
Right. And so, yeah, moving on to Helaina. Helaina, how do you switch roles quickly? Is it hard when you're blurring all these hats together to know when to stop? And question from the audience: if you were to give one hat away, which one would it be, and who would it be to you?
Oh dear. Oh. That's a good question. Okay, let me start with. I have a pretty rigid schedule, and that's because I work I get to school at 8 o'clock in the morning and I leave at 3:30 in the afternoon. I go pick up my kids, I come home, I make dinner, I'm with my kids, we play a couple games, they take a shower, and then they go to bed. And then essentially from 8:30 until 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm doing all of the kids' table and Burnt Island stuff. And then on the weekends, Josh and I switch up. Some weekends he works, some weekends I work, some weekends neither of us work. It really just depends on what area needs to be focused on. So my schedule is very rigid. I don't stop. I don't. Some of the things in my life have been put on hold. Like I used to work out regularly, and by regularly, I mean I used to work out every single day. And now if I get 2 workouts in a week, I am very lucky. And so that's one of the things that had to just go, which is unfortunate. But, the hope is one day that, Burnt Island Games and Kids Table is going to allow me the option of not teaching anymore. And so maybe there'll be some balance, which would be really, really awesome for me.
Right. So passing off the teacher hat to another teacher, then I guess maybe.
That's correct. I would. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I look at myself and I not to toot my own horn, I do think that I'm a good teacher, but the teachers that come out of Teachers College now, they're aggressive the way I used to be aggressive about learning how to teach really well. And I feel like I'm very seasoned and I know a lot about what I'm doing. And so I'm not as excited to learn new things as I was when I first started teaching. I'm not as eager to bring new things into the classroom. I like the things that work. You know, I still try to maintain that the level of being in 2017 in the classroom, but I'm just not as enthusiastic as I used to be. So I would be very happy to hand that hat over, at least for a little while, and try my hand at working as a publisher and designer full time. So,
yeah, talking about passion, I think this actually dovetails excellent into Paige West wrote a question, and I'm going to point this one to Sarah. But concerning time management, all this that we're talking about, how do you keep a passion for board games? Like, do you lose a love for playing games? How do you mix in playing games and having fun with games on top of it just being work?
That hasn't happened yet, and I hope it never will. I like it because I think part of it is that for Daily Magic, we publish certain types of games, right? We're like light to midweight games. And I like a whole spectrum of games. So I think a lot of the time in my free play time, I play games that we're not necessarily ever going to publish at DMG. Like I'm super excited to get ready to play Fate of the Elder Gods. And we were at a convention like 2 months ago, and I sat down and played a 4.5-hour game of Cthulhu Wars. And you know what I mean? Like I still get engaged in the things that maybe we're not doing through work. And I feel like the more games I play, the more I learn about them too. So I can be more effective in my jobs by playing as many games as I possibly can, because I can give better feedback when I'm play testing, and I can give better feedback at the office, and I can, you know, do better when I'm editing rule books and looking at RPGs. We play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, so that's just like pure joy time for me, is because that's just for fun. So it's just such a love of the hobby in general, and everybody in our life that's super close to us, friends wise, is really, they're all into it too. We're just kind of surrounded by designers and would-be designers and people who just love the hobby, and it's just like, it brings all of our friends together. So it's just as much about being social and being together as it is about anything else. So I think that's kind of where it really kind of sits for me, is about that.
So I mean, this is a great maybe place to even keep going on the idea of playing, but playing at home and playing with family. You both have families. How much are your families into gaming? Is this something where you connect at home and you've got that, or is there any kind of struggle between balancing those two things?
Sarah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I guess, sorry, who was just talking? I guess we'll throw it to Helaina first, and I'm sure, Sarah, I'd love to hear from you too, because you would have slightly differing ideas, since one's got high school kids and one's got more elementary, right? So your different phases too. It'd be interesting to hear both sides.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know, Josh and I play games all the time, and our kids play games all the time, and we play games with the kids. We have yet to see the kids play games really together on their own, you know, besides the one-off card game here and there. But something very interesting to me, at least, and very exciting to me, happened this week with our younger son, who is 5.5. He asked for a game design journal. And he's been thinking about 3 different kinds of games, and he's writing his ideas down, and he's drawing pictures, and obviously with our help a little bit. But it is the most incredible thing I have seen as a parent that is also a game designer. It makes me so happy. And both of them love playing games, but the younger one is just very natural for him. He's always talking about how he can design a game. So for us, we are completely immersed in it. There are games everywhere in our house, everywhere. Like our bedrooms, the main floor, the dining room, our offices, like they're everywhere. So we are
bathroom?
games.
Do you have games in your bathroom? I have games in my bathroom.
No, okay, we don't have games.
Send showing
I don't
off,
trust my
guys.
kids
Send
with
showing
games
off.
in the bathroom, okay?
You have all boys too, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all do all of us have all boys?
Oh my God, what do you have, Sarah?
No, I think Sarah said she has a daughter.
Sarah, do you have a daughter? I'm not sure if Sarah can hear us right now. Well, we'll continue on. Nevertheless,
And I have 2.
we persist. Oh, there she is.
There she is.
I think we're kind of losing you, Sarah. Are you doing okay there?
I mean, now I'm here.
Okay,
Oh,
you're cutting in and out. Oh, sorry. It's okay. How do you play with your family? Do you play with your kids as well as Levi, or with just Levi? Is your family a gaming family?
Yes, our 20s is definitely a gamer, and he's 100% in all the time. Our youngest 2 are 18 and 16 age. One of them to sit down for a game. Emily will kick our butts and take a ride anytime. But interested, we bond a lot more over other music and TV shows and stuff like
Sarah, your mute
that.
button.
So,
Your mute keeps
spend family time doing.
your mute keeps flickering on and off, so I'm not sure what's happening.
Oh, that's so weird.
It's interesting though. So
Yes.
it's okay. It's okay. If you can figure that out, I'll look at your picture, and when you don't have the microphone muted, then we'll ask you a question. Like right now, how's it going?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, it's not flickering anymore. Did you change something? Oh, we're losing Sarah.
I think there's a connection issue. Maybe she's flicking in and out.
Okay. Well, she is in a different country, and all of the reindeer that are powering our internet may not be doing so hot. Oh, and she dropped out.
She's
Okay.
gone.
Oh. So let's talk to Helaina. We're now forced. We're now forced to talk to you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So when we're talking about balance and all that kind of stuff, has there ever been any time, especially in the midst of like a Kickstarter campaign, when you felt like you just have too much on your plate? Or are you good with that?
Oh no. I'm not good with it. I have to say, I dislike Kickstarter campaigns, being in the midst of a Kickstarter campaign more than anything. I really dislike it. But just today, I had a little bit of, I think I've done too much. Two brands, two games coming out. My children in new grades. I'm teaching a new grade. At some point, I'm just like, what have I done?
Yeah, something's got to give, right?
Yeah, and then in school, I joined all of these committees because I have to do everything.
No,
I have to do everything. And what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you're talking to everyone who has the exact same problem, so we're not very good for each other.
No,
we are horrible. Hey, this isn't Levi. Is it Sarah?
Someone else.
No, it's okay. It's Sarah's. If it is Levi, it's Sarah's partner. But if it's Sarah, then she's stealing Levi's avatar. So it's one of the two things that's happening there. So Helaina, we'll keep talking to you until and Sarah, if that is you, if that is really your name, no, I think it's you. Speak up when you get in. So Helaina, so what do you do to de-stress? What do you do to balance your life? How do you get away from gaming when it literally surrounds you in every room of your house, except your bathroom, because you're not as hardcore as I am?
Right, I am not. I'm not sure that anyone's as hardcore as you, Sen.
So, Sen, you're your own level.
Yeah, kind of.
There are days when I just have to turn on the TV and watch Netflix and just not think about anything. But I'll be honest with you, games just never really go away. Excuse me, it is my entertainment. It is my business. It's what I do. It's who I am. It's like in my blood now.
Right?
Yeah.
That's good. I think that's a good thing. That's an okay thing.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, we're okay that
As
you're
long as
okay
you're
with
fine
it.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah, we like that you like it. What do you think, Daryl?
Good.
Well, I mean, while we are missing a guest, we do have a newer host that we can also pepper with some questions to
For
help
sure,
spread
because I think
what's
somebody's already peppering her in the feed. So let's go back to
right.
that. And
Yeah,
ask
exactly.
this
Well, so
Go ahead,
I
Daryl.
mean, Erica being a newer designer and taking this on as well as a teacher, I'm curious if you would give any tips to someone joining the game design hobby. What is kind of a good pace, or what are some things that you would advise so that they join the hobby, get involved, but also don't feel too overwhelmed? Are there conventions you recommend? Are there, what are the kind of things that people should start getting involved with and maybe taking it a few steps at a time?
Yeah, that's a really hard one because, as even Helaina said, it's really easy to take on way too much. And gaming is one of those things where you don't get the industry. I still don't think I get the industry, but you don't get the industry until you've sort of jumped in the deep end, and then you already feel like you're in over your head, but you got to keep going. But I mean that in a good way. I mean that that's probably the easiest way to kind of see it all at once. But I think what really was good for me is to start small, see if you can go somewhere local, just kind of get used to getting your games played and seen, and learning how to take feedback and all those small things that are great to do maybe locally, and then start to go and learn to meet with publishers and talk to them and what that's like and how to introduce yourself and all those things that are super, super scary, but you've kind of got to figure out your way of doing it. So I think the funniest thing for me going to cons was learning that, is my pace slow? Is my pace fast? Am I crazy compared to everybody else? Like you honestly don't know until you meet everybody else and you see all of the different speeds that people go at. So I guess the best thing to say is find out what won't overwhelm you and keep going, because it becomes addictive. Like you want to keep making these things and you can't help it. But then there's the balancing issue. You literally never stop, and then you become Zen.
So true.
Sarah, are you back on air with us?
I'm here. I'm sorry, my internet dropped.
Yay.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Daryl, do you have a question for Sarah?
Well, I don't know. I want to ask another question that we were talking about was finding some kind of like I'm drawing a blank on the word, but like how do you find rest or some balance, some soul care? How do you get away from all the chaos so that you stay centered?
I'm a big proponent of self-care in general, and I just kind of I try to recognize when I've had too much and kind of say, hey, honey, you might need a break. And I will, say, look, mom's going to go take a 3-hour nap. Like, nobody come talk to me. Like, I'm just going to go lay down for a little while, or I'll say, you know what? I need some adult time with adult friends. Can we please just get a case of beer and eat tacos and play some fun games? Or, just go have a date night. Like, can we just go to the movies? Like something where I don't have to think, I can just kind of zone out. Or I'll binge watch Doctor Who all over again. Those kinds of things, right? I just kind of find that moment of, you know what, today's the day and I'm taking a break and that's what's going to happen. And I know that I have to do that every once in a while or I'll crack. So I just recognize it as part of the process and be okay with just stopping for a minute.
Mm-hmm. That's totally legit. Erica, you got a question?
Yeah, I was going to actually throw it over to Helaina, because you kind of have an interesting situation where not only are you a publisher and then a publisher again, but then also a publisher that works with another publisher. So, I mean, talking about multiple hats, and then on top of that, being married to a graphic designer who also works on your games. So you have a lot of relationships at once. Maybe, did you want to talk a little bit about working with that many people as well?
Sure. There's a lot of management, and I think that the most important thing is communication. And I communicate with everybody all the time. Like I said, I don't really sleep, so whenever something pops in my head, I will message whoever it is that I'm thinking I need to discuss it with. And then doing chats or Skype conversations. So for example, I was talking before about the designers of Endeavor, Jarrett and Carl. We have been in constant contact. They have been absolutely amazing at developing the game. And, you know, Jarrett writes these incredibly detailed emails, which I'm so thankful for, because he has such deep thought. Obviously, it's his own game, so he really knows what's going on, but he has such deep thought that it allows me to take a little bit of a step back and do that management piece and make sure that everybody has been communicating with each other. And so there's a lot of email threads where everybody is working together, where, for example, on that email thread about Endeavor and game development, we've got Mark from Grand Gamers, we have Jarrett and Carl, and we have Josh and myself, and we're constantly emailing back and forth. And then switching back to, now we're working on the video for the Kickstarter campaign for Haunt the House. So we're working with John Meitling, and so Josh and I and John are on that thread and another email. So there's a lot of communication, and for me, that's the most important thing.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Sarah, so when you are wearing these hats and you have to deal with somebody you're actually, you know, you kind of like, you know, maybe your significant other.
Yeah.
How do you deal with problems that arise when, you know, they might be the cause of it, or they might be the solution, but you have to prod them to do it because they're also falling down that Netflix binge watching hole? You know, how do you manage that kind of thing? Is it difficult?
It can be, but I think it's just about, I think we have two partners at Daily Magic, so Isaiah Vallejo and David McKenzie, who are amazing people. And I think between the four of us, and then even at home, just between Levi and I, we just have to keep it honest, right? Like we have to be able to call each other on our BS, right? If one of us is getting salty or one of us is getting crazy or we're just not putting forth the effort or whatever it is, we have to be able to talk to each other about that. And if we're having disagreements, we just open communicate until we can try and find some kind of a compromise, because we know it's got to land somewhere, and it's better that it lands on something we can all agree on than not. So it's just about being honest and being I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, being encouraging to each other in everything that we do, to make sure that we can, you know, we keep our spirits up to do the best that we can. But yeah, I agree with Helaina that it's totally about communication, 120 million%.
Absolutely. I love that, being encouraging. I mean, and focusing on those positives. My last question that I'll get to ask for Helaina is maybe on a kind of dreaming of the future and the many hats. What are some of the things, or some of the type of games, or some of the designers or artists that you would love to get to work with in the future? Are there any wishes of even types of games that you want to explore? Kind of what's the vision for Burnt Island? And what could designers that are watching maybe even start cooking up and pitch your way in the future?
Well, right now we're sort of still establishing ourselves. My dream for Burnt Island is to continue to make mid-weight games, beautiful games, and completely immersive. And you know, I had long talks with people about whether or not art is integral to a game. And for me, I can't imagine playing a game where I'm not immersed in it in some way by the graphic designer art. And so when I look at where the direction I want Burnt Island to go in, again, mid-weight game, mechanisms. I'm not really married to anything right now, but I do want to make sure that what happens to the player when they're playing our games is that they just can't take their eyes off of the board or whatever it is that they're playing with, and they don't want to pick up their phone except for to take a photograph of it. So in terms of who I'd like to work with, as an artist, Quan Chai he's so incredible. I would absolutely love to work with him. As designers, I would actually love to make a game of Daniel and Dennis, which you are going to talk about that in a second. But good
segue.
I've been playing a lot of their games, and I really would absolutely love to do that for them and for ourselves. So,
yeah.
So I was going to just bring up something for Sarah, kind of as we're getting to the end here, but you guys have such great experience to pull from. Do you have advice for I know we're kind of saying juggling is hard, but maybe advice for some of the juggling, or what advice would you give to even people who are interested in getting into publishing? I mean, short version.
Just understand that you're getting into a beast, right? There's so much that goes on with publishing. It's like I said, there's 4 of us at DMG, and I think there are several times where the 4 of us feel like we're treading water, and we've got all of us together. So if it's somebody's trying to do it by themselves, I would say find help, find a lifeline, find a life preserver, something. Just be prepared for it's always going to be more than you think it is. But no matter where you turn, there will be somebody there to advise and talk you through it. And the board gaming community and the board gaming industry as a whole is so stunningly interactive and complimentary and giving. And I've yet to meet anyone who has been like, oh, I don't want to talk to you about that because I'm not giving up trade secrets or whatever it is, right? Everybody's very collaborative and open, and it's fantastic. So just keep your chin up, keep moving forward, understand that it's worth it on the back end, but don't get into it for the money. You have to get into it because you love it. If you're not in it because you love it, you're in it for the wrong reasons. That's pretty much the bottom line.
That's really good advice.
Bottom line, because Sarah said so. Okay, shooting it to you, Helaina. Helaina, what's some advice that you would give to people who are juggling stuff in this industry? How can they, just chill a little bit? What's something that what is something you're going to try to do for yourself when you get too stressed that you can share with other people?
Let's see. I think that maybe just taking a step back and being real with yourselves. This is an entertainment industry at the end of the day. We're trying to entertain people. And if you're getting stressed out or need to take a step back, then you definitely should do that. And really understand that you are doing this to make people happy. And if you are not happy, then what's the point of it? So be in it for the good things. It's hard. It's a really hard place to be. But if you can look at it that way and just realize that you are making people's lives better, then that in itself should make you feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Paul on the feed is saying, if you need to talk to somebody. Like, really, professional help is not a bad idea. It really isn't. Right? So we
need all the support we can get. So again, I just want to say a big thank you to both Helaina and Sarah for joining us, sharing your stories, your experience, your wisdom. We really do appreciate all the hats you wear and just learning from your experiences. I also want to give a little shout out to Daniel Rocky and Dennis Q for congratulations for winning the CGDAs with Fingersmiths. Congrats to that. So for anyone who doesn't know, that's a a prestigious Canadian game award that has an excellent track record of some phenomenal designers. And so really proud to see those two join the ranks of some of the best Canadian designers. And honestly, if you look into that award, you'll see a lot of names and often one or two of their first games before they blow up. So don't be surprised to see Daniel and Dennis's names all over the place soon, because they are making some wonderful games. And just also want to say a shout out to our viewers. We just really appreciate you giving us questions and just interacting with us. Also, thanks this week for all the great interaction for the little pop-up show had Talking a Good Game. If you're interested in more episodes like that, I know Sen is trying to plan some of those, and so reach out to him if you'd like to be involved with those. There was a phenomenal discussion. Feel free to check that out on our YouTube page. Also, we're going to try to get that schedule up somewhere, so stay tuned for that, and you will see some of those upcoming episodes, and you can tune in with us. But meanwhile, we just want to encourage, keep making great games, and we look forward to playing your game soon.
See
Good night,
y'all.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.